Jonesy, how are you?
Oh, not too bad. Bit of a busy morning. Not only was it the cricket,
Mm.
balancing in with a bit of an air around the school. We got the inspectors in, ISI in, and then trying to teach fifth form how to read a cash flow forecast.
When you
So
finish, you can
yeah,
teach me if you want.
yeah. So I think no.
My wife, my wife's a CFO, and she's trying to teach me for years, and I just basically gave up. Um,
Simple concepts, but then when you put it to it's if you know it, it's simple, isn't it? For anyone else, they're looking at going, "Sir, how have you done that? How have you done that?" And so yeah.
which is a beautiful segue to when we talk about Harry Brook, but we'll start off at the very beginning. There was nearly an outbreak of proper Test cricket going on there today at the day one of the second Test at the Gabba, the pink ball match.
Few leaves, wasn't there? A few
Mm.
few sort of throwbacks where um, the batters summed up the situation. A little unknown. So it is good to see. And in fact, we've had a full day's cricket. England are still batting, and you're the stat man. It'd be interesting when that last happened, but yeah, no, it was good for the punters, and just happy for the people out there watching actually at the Gabba. And although crowds didn't
Yeah,
look that great.
no, it didn't. 37,000, I think, 35,000. How
Yeah,
big's the Gabba? Do you know?
well, it's
Approximately.
changed a lot,
It's
but
yeah,
it's an Aussie rules ground, so I'd like to think it'd be closer to 50, but it's so
right.
hard.
Okay.
That's where they have those red and yellow seats, is because you can't tell if there's someone in it or not.
Yeah,
Um, but it. I also heard that it's potentially the Gabba's last Test match as well,
yeah,
because they're
it's being
tearing it
knocked
down,
down.
ready for the
Yeah.
Olympics. So I know a few of the teachers from my brother's school went along to watch. Whether or not that was with permission or not, but hopefully I haven't outed them. But yeah, the cricket fans would have been going along, and the whole point of day night is to give that facility for people to go after work. So the interesting bit, which I didn't hear in the stuff I was listening to, if the crowd grew
Yeah. As a
as
day.
as as the day went on, because a 2 o'clock start, first session goes till 4, then you have your lunch. So 5 o'clock onwards, people finishing cricket. In a
Mm.
you got the tradies out in Australia who would have finished because of the heat, sort of 3 in the afternoon. So that'd be the interesting bit. Does it do its job? Was there an influx of people in the afternoon, which is why they play pink ball cricket?
Yeah, there was a lot of debate leading up to this as to whether the Ashes particularly should be tampered with and have a pink ball match, a day-night match. I mean, opinions are divided, I think. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I can see the reason why they'd do it, uh, but the pure traditionalists would say you're going to sell the Ashes anyway. You might as well keep it as it is. And do you have a view on that at all?
Yeah, I can see both sides of it. Yes, traditionally, if you go back, even over here, we talk about tradition. We took a test match to Cardiff,
Yeah, that's right.
which broke all tradition. So we actually, so there's both sides of it. And then, but I can absolutely see trying to get public there watching, trying to get some interest, because a lot of people can't take the day off to go and watch. So if you
Mm.
give them the opportunity to go at night, um, that's why here the Oval and places like that for the hundreds and T20s are full, because it's after work. You've got the London crowd just pop on after work and they love
Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
I I fully understand it, but yes, there is a big traditional pull to say let's keep it with what we've known for all these years. But as we've both said, we're getting older. Things change.
The other sort of chatter, if you like, in the media prior to this test was obviously the what happened at the first test. That England were accused of being arrogant, and we I think we said it. We asked the question: were they arrogant or were they stubborn? But what they have shown today is that they actually can adapt. There are some notable exceptions, which we are going to talk about. On the whole, they played sensible Test cricket. If we start at the top of the order, Zac Crawley has got a whole load of grief, across his Test career, and I thought he batted well today.
Yeah, he batted how we love seeing Zac Crawley bat, and he batted the way that sort of McCullum and Stokes want him to bat. because to make a difference up the top. It's a shame he lost those early partners. Starc's record in the first over of his spell is absolutely phenomenal. But to focus on Zac, there was talk he's playing because of these wickets. These wickets suit him. And we saw shots off the front foot, off the back foot. We saw his power. That's all that stuff, which is Zac Crawley's bread and butter. Today, he offered a bit more selection with the way he went about it, and it sort of bore fruit. And so the next step, I was desperate for him to turn that start he got, that 60 odd in, to get 100. And that's what we're after really. But as a good sign for this test and going into the second innings, Zac Crawley would have got a huge amount of confidence, and that's why we pick him.
He has a mental block in the 70s, and you keep calling me the stats man, but I read these things and I forget what actually I'd read, but it's something like he's been, his conversion rate from the 70s onwards is quite low comparatively. And I think this score of 76 that he got is the fourth or fifth time he's been out on that score. Players have an unlucky score. Mine was about 4, but players have an unlucky score. And how much of that, we spoke about before about ducks and onion rings and all that stuff for a match. When you get to a score that you've been out on a few times, does it affect you?
No, don't think so. I don't recall. It's, if anything, it depends how often it's happened. But a mid-70s isn't a significant sort of thing. It's not a 90s. You've got beyond your 50s, and so it's just that in between time. It'd be more about in between lessons, I did get to see that passage of play where he got out, and it was and for me it was the way I didn't like the way he started after lunch. He was obviously played that first his first 50 odd, he'd played really well, okay, up until the lunch break. And then his first shot after lunch was an across the line sort of attempted pull to something that wasn't at a pull height. And that's more the thing for me, is what got you to 50 and above, but you actually have to recognize I've started again. You can't just go out there in fifth gear. And that would be the element for Zac to look at, is when have those 70s and how often are they within a short period after a lunch break? As an opener, you target, you want to get through that first session. Zac Crawley gets through a session, he's going to have 50 plus on the board. Okay. But then he has to restart again.
Yeah.
So that's the bit, that's the sort of the even further in-depth look which Zac should look at. And if there's a trend with the fact, okay, well, Zac, when you do get it through that first session, unfortunately, you've got a bit of a problem with your first 20 minutes of the next session.
Yeah.
And so it's that sort of stuff which I'm sure he'll have stats. Someone will be talking to him about, because he desperately wants to get 100. You get 70, you're in, you do it. But it's more so that looking at what's caused me to get out there.
The shot he got out to actually was very similar to that shot you were describing as a shot just after lunch, where he's pulled one that was not there to pull. It looked to me like it kept a bit low, but it might well have been that it was just too full to pull. And there was a great, look of disappointment on his face that, it's probably a combination of a number of things, right? I've got out. It's the same shot I'd played before that didn't go that well. I haven't got 100. But look, at the end of the day, that's a decent uplift, isn't it, in performance?
Yeah, and that's why he's in the side, because they want, they'll take a 70 from Zac Crawley up front because of the impact it made. And across the series, they're happy with 2 or 3 70s. They've stated that for a long time. He's played as many tests as he had because he's got utmost backing from the people that matter. Because they're happy with those performances. They're not expecting a Joe Root style, bat the day, end up 130. No, they're happy with Zac Crawley, pressure on the bowlers, 70s, 80s, desperately hope he gets 100 plus. But he's done that by halfway through the second session. He's got them off to a flyer.
One of our previous shows, I think it was a preview show to this test, we spoke about your 05 side and how everybody had a role to play, and the roles were, excuse me, were very clear and defined, and that showed a little bit today. Zac, Crawley playing the way he played, and Joe Root playing the way he played, and then obviously the culmination of that was the monkey was off Joe's back at last.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think everyone is so pleased for him, because all that, I'm going to call it nonsense, all the nonsense chat before about Joe Root isn't a great until he scores 100 in Australia. I'm sorry, he was a great before that.
Yeah, of course.
You look, and that was
I think
just
that nonsense was from Australia. I think it was the Aussie media.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he did, for me, he did well to be as restrained as he was when he got it, because
I like the
I was
shrug.
actually,
What's all the fuss about,
yeah, where was his sort of like a cold, but
Yeah.
but I was thinking, I actually was thinking about this. If that was me, what sort of celebration? I don't think I would have been quite as restrained. It could have been back to the Nasser Hussain sort of pointing at the number, or I actually envisaged, would Joe Root be within his right to sort of do a lap around, just pointing and sort of.
What did you do when you caught Kasparowicz?
I just quietly put the ball in my pocket and walked off.
Yeah, right. Or you ran towards the crowd that'd been baiting
Actually,
you.
I wish I'd put the ball in my pocket. I'd still have it. But yeah, no, that's the thing. But Joe Root, he was, he was in the moment. He knew it wasn't finished then. It must have been internally. Oh my gosh, I don't know what, how you could describe what had been going on.
Yeah.
But externally he exuded calm confidence. But I'm sure inside he was flipping and just sort of, yes, I've shown them.
Somebody who seems to exude calm and confidence on the outside is Harry Brook, but the mental or the mindset or this is going to be a question. It should be. Is it a scrambled brain? Is it just this is the way I'm going to play? I mean, what's going on there? Because Harry Brook is a talent, and I want to make the link to Kevin Pietersen from your team, who was brought in, for a specific reason. After 31 tests, whatever Harry Brook's played so far, his record and Kevin's record are reasonably similar. Same amount of runs, average around the sort of the low 50s, same amount of hundreds. One's got slightly more than the other, I think. Is there a correlation to be made between those two, do you think, first and foremost? I mean, you played with Kev.
You lost me about 2 minutes ago with that ramble, mate. But
there was a question at the end. It was
right.
It was a clear question. Go on, answer it.
Okay. I'm going to flip back a bit. When you said about he exudes calmness on the outside.
Yeah.
Another sort of thought I had watching, I think I might have been driving on the way to work this morning, was that heart rate monitors. If you had a heart rate monitor on Joe Root,
mm-hmm.
playing the way he did, and a heart rate monitor on Harry Brook, I think you'd see Harry Brook actually quite high and Joe Root just going on calm, because I know he looks like it, but just to play the nature and the way he does, looking for all the shots and playing for all the shots, just gives me the impression he's always at a heightened level, making choices then, correct choices. You've got to be a special talent, and I think he is a special talent, but to be consistent at doing that when you yourself are a bit jumpy. And listen, I'm just completely guessing here, but it's just from me watching, for him to play the way he does, he's not looking to be settled, is he?
No.
He's looking to always do something. And then, so that nature of his play is something I think he maybe needs to look at, because getting around to the question I think you posed, comparing him.
I can't remember. It's such a long time ago with this answer you're giving me.
Comparing him and Kev. And it actually.
That was what we're after.
Yeah. The nature of the way he plays, the shots he plays are very similar. The way he can hit it through the offside on the up. There's not many players can do that. Kevin could do that.
Yeah.
The way they both play that. So they are similar in nature, but I think Kev read situations well, and we're talking 20 years ago as well. He played for a bit longer than that after, even if it was 15 years ago. He played in a more traditional manner. You know, it wasn't until the situation got in, and that's the way that we were taught to play, is that he didn't bring his switch hit out until he was in a position of real strength.
Mm.
And maybe that's something that Harry Brook can look at, because I've seen Harry Brook play. You know, he's phenomenal. You know, he's got power to burn, but it just seems at the moment the chat that's going around is that he's just always looking to show that power. You know, running down, hitting sixes, first ball he faces, stuff like
Mm.
that. He's settled into this method, and so it's whether now, and I think he's a bright cricketer, that in order to be successful, he'll have definite success. But if he wants to be a great, he just has to fractionally look at the way he plays. And looking at someone like KP could be a great example. Talking to KP
Yeah.
would be more than open to do that. Listen,
Mm.
Kev, how did you go about it? We've both got all the same shots. What was your mindset? You know, it's a slightly older mindset compared to the new modern way, but could be worthwhile. And it wouldn't surprise me if they have spoken. You know, it's
Mm.
they're both on the circuits together and stuff like that. So it's Harry Brooks, just maybe a little minor tweak. You know, as fans, I want to see him bat all day, and I
Talent
think the
only
method he's using currently won't allow that.
talent only gets you in the room, doesn't it? Ultimately, and you know, for him to become a great of English cricket, he can't go on batting like he's batting. This test, the previous test at Perth, and the last test against India at the Oval, where, you know, between him and Joe Root, they managed to pluck defeat from the jaws of victory. That trend, you know, there's a growing gap, isn't there, now between talent and execution. And if that gap grows bigger, should he be dropped? Would you? Okay, let's just stick with that question, because otherwise I'll get accused of long rambling questions again. Should Harry Brook be dropped for his own sake?
No, no, because he's too good. You know, the
But
talent.
talent only gets you in the room. If you've got something like a Will Jacks batting at 5, that gives you another attacking batter who can bowl a bit, and then you've got the balance to be able to put somebody else in at 8. And then I don't think you're losing that much, because Harry Brook's not contributing runs to the scoreboard that his talent suggests that he should.
But you're also taking a 3 Test match window. You know, and so yes, they are memorable Test matches
Mm.
for it not going right, but look at it a longer term, he should be in the side for his talent and for the runs that, you know, the success he's had. You think of the way he started his Test match career; he's absolutely got there. You know, and he will recognise the pressure and stuff. And I think I'd like to think he's got the qualities to slightly adapt. That's all it takes. Leave that first ball from Starkey. Don't go anywhere near it. You know, don't chase the wide ones. Just like Zac Crawley did this first. Just have a slight adaptation. Be in the room. But then you could also, that's where the batting partnership stuff comes into it. When you're in it, you can tell if he's flying, and that's where leadership speaks to the team, and, you know, maybe subtly speak to teammates and make Harry aware. Listen, if you think he's just, you know, over revving, just maybe little challenges. Get him back on task. You know, that's the sort of things. That's where the elite level coaching comes into it, and the communication is that, okay, we can leave him keep going like this, and he's going to be under pressure. But how can we help him to do? And that's even if they want to do it. But for us, for example, yes, I want Harry Brook to bat longer. What do I see? I see some reckless shots. Now, is that recklessness coming from his thoughts about the way he perceives he needs to play? You know, what's his decision making in those moments? Do we need to adjust them? If so, how do we do it? Harry Brook, do you like your partner coming and talking to him and just giving you a little fist bump and say, "Come on, Harry, you know, we need you, need you to keep going here. You and I, 10 more runs. Let's build up 10.
Yeah.
Let's get another 10." So that's the art of what they should be doing within that team, is like, how do we get Harry Brook? Because his talent's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's get the most out of it. What's the best for the team? And so that's the sort of potential conversation should be happening.
The sporting world is littered with talent that haven't fulfilled their, their abilities, right? But invariably, I would say that given he bats at 5, the chances of him batting with Joe Root a lot is quite high. So presumably, that's a role that Joe can play, should play, could play. But maybe, yeah, as you said, maybe, Harry Brook does want that. I mean, we don't know. But there's certainly you can get a sense of opinion by listening to the press and just social media and stuff. There seems to be a growing level of frustration with Harry Brook. And that can't be good for a player, A, is so young, and B, who's been given so much responsibility by England so early.
Yeah, I know the frustration comes from seeing what he can do at his best.
Yeah.
And nature is to want more that all the time and more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we look at because we know how dominant he can be. And that's what, right, show your dominance more often. Don't chase wide ones. Occasionally you will, absolutely, because it's the risk reward stuff. Certain shots you play, but they might get you out every now and again. Zac Crawley, he's a phenomenal short ball player.
Yeah.
He nicked bottom edge one today. You gotta say, Zac, put that shot away because it's part of his armory. The difference with Harry Brook is that he's playing every shot and not necessarily choosing it at the right time, and that's the difference.
Again, saying that, Will Jacks chased a wide one today, so yeah, maybe it's endemic across the system.
You gonna get rid of him already as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you might get caught up at this rate, mate. Let's go with let's break it up with your true or false question. Obviously, the last time we did this, fundamentally, I got called out for it being utter rubbish. So this one I've actually fact checked, and you're going to like this because it is the second test. Actually, it was the second test was at the MCG, and back in the day, so you can see where this is going. They only played at 3 grounds. This isn't your question. What were those 3 grounds? So across 5 tests, they played the 5 tests across 3 grounds. What were they? That's a bonus question. This isn't your true or false.
Well, you're going to say Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah. What's the other one?
Trying to think travel wise. Perth's too far. Did they play 2 in the same city?
Yes.
But at different grounds?
No. Okay, no. So they played SCG, MCG, somewhere else, MCG, SCG.
Okay, right. Was that at a different state?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a different city, different state. And they still use it now. You mentioned one of those.
Adelaide.
Yeah, exactly. It was Adelaide, yeah. They were
the reason I thought of that was the old traditional scoreboard.
Yeah.
That's what drew me to Adelaide.
Right, there's those 3. So in the second test, which was at Melbourne at the MCG in 1897-98, Australia scored 520 all out without hitting a single 6. True or false?
Yes, because at that age, the bats were stick thin. They hadn't found the gym and stuff by then, and the bowlers just lobbed them up like that. So, yeah, absolutely, no 6s hit it.
Yeah, you've gone 3-0, mate.
English.
3-0, very good. Although they did hit 35 4s in that 520 all out. So
yeah, but even at that time, they just well played, old chap. That's 4. Waved it through.
Yeah, the amateurs and the gentlemen and all that sort of type of thing.
Yeah,
that era is very much gone. Standout performers of the day. I mean, you got 2, haven't you? Root and Starc.
Yeah, go with Starc first. His record in pink ball is just ridiculous. But I watch it and I don't know what he does. I'm not giving him any disrespect here.
No, sure.
Because it's not. I'm looking at thinking, okay, what is so special about this? And it's not. Yes, the ball to get Ben Duckett out was a lovely ball, but around that, he's just accumulated wickets, and he's all I can put it down to. And especially I think he's getting closer to 30 times that he's taken a wicket in his first over.
Yeah.
across his. And so it comes back to the value of a left armour and the difference of it, because how much practice do people do in general? You think of around the country, people go into the nets. What do? They, even on the bowling machine, right arm over. So as soon as you put a lefty in, and also his height. So what I can put that down to is that with his height and his release points, there's something that makes it really difficult.
And
Go on.
no, I was going to say that normally he's bowling alongside Hazelwood, Pat Cummins as the other two quicks, then Nathan Lyon. But today he's got those two world class experienced bowlers, etc. Today he's leading an attack that isn't as strong as as it could be, and yet he still takes 6 for. So he took 7 for in the last 10 for in the match. He took 6 for the match before that against the West Indies, took 6 for 7. He's just gone past Wasim Akram as the leading left arm sort of pacer of all time. He's definitely getting better, and now he shows he doesn't need those other good bowlers around him to be able to perform.
Yeah, and I think as a bowler, sort of time overs under your belt, and as he's found his art. You think Jimmy Anderson early in his career.
Yeah.
And I think Mitchell Starc could probably be in a little bit of that bracket, that he went for everything and didn't quite get his consistency. But he's found that consistency, and then added to the fact, as I said, left armour, because it's not like he just swings them back and blasts front pads off, which is what you sort of expect from your left armour.
Yeah.
A lot of his wickets are with the across ball.
Yeah.
And so, and for me, when I remember batting against lefties, as soon as that ball stopped swinging, I went over to off stump, and it gave me a sense of clarity, because as long as it kept going across, I didn't want anything to do with it, because cricket's about angles. And so that tall left arm angle across, the last thing I wanted to do was approach it with another angle, whether that be my bat or trying to hit it through the covers. So my method of going over to off stump was to try and play straight to straight. And I found that for me, that really worked, and so, but where Starc, he's in the back of people's heads, he just does keep swinging it back. But, and so he's obviously highly skillful. He's got consistency, and his record is just speaking for itself now.
Would I be anyway right in saying that actually he's difficult to pick as well, because if he's coming in left arm and it looks like, for all intents and purposes, it's going to come across you, and some do and some don't. Is that sort of a factor as to why he's become so dangerous?
Yeah, if you're unsure where it's going, I think let's give Starc credit that he is sure of what he's doing with it, and that skill factor. But yes, as a batter, and that's what I talked about, as soon as I knew the ball wasn't swinging, I could rule out basically LBW and bowls.
Yeah.
So it clarified my method of playing. So, but as the whole time that ball was just offering back, I'd danger for anything but straight, and then that's what draws you into that stuff outside off stump. And that's where, with Clark and his line, not Clark, with Starc with his lines and his lengths, I think that's where he's got so good. His control level has just gone better and better and better.
And talking control, I mean, more self-control than anything else. Joe Root today, he took the monkey off his back. 100 in Australia. That's how 100 against, in every country he's played in. What a phenomenal player that man is.
Yeah, absolute legend, and such a nice guy to go with it. The way he goes about his business. He's the glue in that team. You take Root out of that team, there's some worries. But personally, so happy for him. And the way he played today was Joe Root. With everything that was going on around him, he summed up the situation. He read the wicket, and I think for a Gabba wicket, it was quite placid. He went through some tough situations when Scotty Boland came back under lights. Again, I could happen to see a bit of that, and he was making a lot of noises, and the ball was obviously started doing a bit. But throughout his whole innings, he also showed some really good thinking. He came down the wicket to try and negate the consistent length that Boland was bowling and the other right armers. So he summed that up quickly. And then when Carey came up to his stumps, he stayed in his crease and he played the Joe Root way. So I loved his level of thinking. And that's why he's such a good batter and has been, because he can sum situations up and he plays to them. He said, okay, what can't do? Right, how am I going to score? These are my options. This is what I need to do. Okay, well, locking into that. And he just does that throughout little chunks along. And so that's why he's so good. And so that's why today was, one, the fact he scored that 100, magnificent in Australia, ticked off everything, solidified that he's going to become Sir Joe Root. That's without doubt. He has to. Why not do it in the middle of the series? By the end of this Ashes, can we have Sir Joe Root, please?
Yeah. Although, yeah, we said that about Ben Stokes after the first day and then at Perth, and then the rest is what happened. So let's
That's in
maybe
time. He's got,
you got future predict it. Was there a glue in your side?
Yeah, probably in that middle. We looked at Vorney as well. We were lucky along the way that we had several glues. In that, but and it happened to be that we had at the top orders, Straussy in the Ashes test, and then Trescothick. But yeah, probably we looked to Vorney to be a bit of that glue. One, because he was the leader, and then the way he played and the success that he had against the Aussies. So I'd say that, the tests I played with Vorney, where he came in, that we sort of looked to him to be our person to bat long.
And Joe at some point is obviously going to retire, and that glue is an important factor in all sides, because not everybody can be the same. Do you see the next glue coming from anyone in the current playing 11, or is there somebody outside of that when you've worked with the Lions, that you've seen potentially can fill that spot?
Yeah, not that straight within the current group. I think they would probably like Ollie Pope to be that.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Player.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I'd go. Is the style that Ollie Pope plays is closely aligned to Joe. He's got the ability to play the different shots, but ultimately he's trying to play a traditional form. I suppose the issue with Ollie Pope is he's a bit inconsistent. So that's where I think they would like to go. You talked about Brook, the way he plays. He's unless he changes dramatically, he's not going to be that person. And why would you want to change from what he offers?
No, it's fair enough. Yeah, exactly. You would never ask Kevin Pietersen to be the glue in your side, would you?
Yeah. But
Stokes, the run out today. First of all, great bit of fielding from a man born in Leeds. So that was good. Hit one stump. The speed at which he ran onto it, Josh Inglis, was very good. Stokes' reaction, because you messaged me when that happened and said that his reaction was interesting. Why did you think it was?
Well, initially when I looked at it, I saw a batter very angry with his partner, and whenever you see that, it didn't come across great for me, because Stokes clearly felt there was a single there, and in the nature they were trying to rotate the strike, and so that awareness again, partnership. Right, this is Stokes. He hadn't been in at the crease that long, so okay, this is the way I'm going to get into my innings. This is my method for now. I need you to back me up. So for Joe just to sort of say no when Stokes committed so much, so that for me was the reaction I saw was a very frustrated one, that he hadn't been supported by his partner in that. Give Inglis credit. He was side on, one arm, bang, hit it. And actually, we haven't even touched upon the fact that the Aussies have left out Nathan Lyon. But so just to go on to finish off about that run out, that was it for me. Then you pointed out to me that by the time he had got up to Joe Root, they gave a fist bump, and he sort of seemed like he'd calmed down. But it just, as well as the frustration with his partner, I just wondered, okay, is this also a bit of the outside noise that is getting to Stokesy, that he wants to do something? Yes, he'd got 5 wickets in Perth.
Mm.
But ultimately, I always think that Ben Stokes judges himself on runs. I think what he does with the ball is a bit of a bonus. I think he judges himself on weight of runs, and he would have, looking at the surface with their bowling attack, he would have felt this is a chance for me, and so for that to be taken away led to that frustration because he wanted to get a score to for himself because he's been under a lot of pressure,
Mm.
from the outside noise.
But then Joe Root goes on to get 100, 135 in England, end of the day on 325 for 9. So ultimately, Joe's contribution to that score outweighs any potential sort of score that, Ben Stokes may or may not have got. Obviously, that's an unknown. But for me, Joe was right to say no, even though it wasn't his call, because ultimately, I think Joe Root knew what was going to happen from a getting 100 perspective. And so therefore, if he stayed in, the percentage chances of that happening were greater. England getting a big score were greater.
Yeah, and it's in the moment that they are in the moment decisions. They're not calculated one, although there have been batters across the ages where that would have been a calculated decision,
Yeah.
to do it. I'm not putting Joe Root in that bracket. I think he just made a decision then, which was, whether or not he was slightly on the back foot for whatever reason, he just didn't want to do it. And so he said no, and Stokesy got ran out. And so, but it wasn't a calculated choice. It probably and quite possibly helped clarify his thinking of what he needed to do. Because if you're in that situation as a player, you then know that if you're the batter that is not out, your mate's got to trudge off. You then focus yourself to go, okay, I need to get runs now just to show. So
yeah,
you could say added pressure, but also I think for Joe Root, it would have helped clarify his intensity to get through and get that 100 and get his team. You're talking about a former captain as well. He knows the importance of him batting and putting first day runs on the board, and so that could have possibly fueled his fire a bit to get to that 100 and beyond.
Yeah, Joe Root, Mitchell Starc. We've mentioned them as today's standout performers, but a guy I think that was absolutely brilliant all day, and you'll like this a lot. Being a former wicketkeeper, was Alex Carey. And he was outstanding today. I mean, there's two standout things for me. One is that the steepling catch he took by in pushing Marnus out the way, but also standing up to someone like Michael Neser, who's bowling a nice 80 odd, 140, 130, 140 clicks plus. Talk about the catch first. How difficult is it to be running backwards under lights, pink ball, pads and gloves whilst pushing your teammate?
Wow, what a pest Marnus is!
Yeah,
That was,
it's everywhere.
it nearly happened twice, but that is probably the hardest you can do when the ball's gone over your shoulder at night, because there's no perception up there. It's just a pink glow coming down. And then you've also got this pest sort of bumping you out of the way. And, he did well to take Marnus's cuddle and not just give him a little right jab to say, what were you doing? But so for me, that was, you talk about game-changing sort of things that can happen, moments. That was an outstanding one because Atkinson we know can bat, and so that's one. But then, you talk the take that he nearly got Harry Brook stumped out with,
that ramp thing.
That was because you've got so much going on in front of you. You could he just relied on his gloves, and so it is not easy to stand up on a bouncy track to someone bowling that pace. I did it to Hoggard in Adelaide during 06 and 07. That was because the wicket dictated it. The wicket wasn't carrying through. So in order to put me in a dismissal position, I wasn't up there for the stumping. I was up there to try and control the batters a bit, and that's why Carey went up there. He was trying to use his skills to control the batters, and then what he did, he executed up there outstandingly.
Because he knows that Harry Brook wants to run down the track and try and hit the bowlers hit Nessa, who he's going to see as being slower, inferior, whatever to Mitchell Starc. So that dominance that I assume that Harry Brook wants to have over the bowler means that he's going to start either standing outside his crease to start off with or charging the bowler. So Carey's come up to the stumps to negate that.
Yeah, and Joe Root was doing the same. Joe Root was using that. Again, I saw the contact zone, so the impact points, and some of them are 3 meters down
I
the
thought you
wicket.
didn't like stats.
I not from you because I can't trust them, but little bits like so. Those sort of things are interesting because when I talk to young wicket keepers or any wicket keeper about, that question is, when do I go up? A bit of it is a feel thing, but you're also dictated by what's going on. If the wicket is horrible wicket that's bouncing in front of you, well, yeah, you've got to go up because you want to be in dismissal. If the batter is doing something that you can control, i.e. running down the wicket, and you coming up to do it, that's the decision maker. So Carey has looked at that and gone, okay, I back my skills. I'm going to get up there because I want my bowlers to be able to get some control and keep these batters, which is in the best position for the bowlers to potentially get a wicket. So that's the decision-making process. But the skill level, he took a bouncer when Joe Root was batting. Boland bowled him a bouncer.
Yeah.
That's also, so he's got to have taken his pads off at the end and enjoyed a well-earned 4X in Queensland, 4X gold. I remember having the odd one of growing up. So he should have sat in the dressing room, can of 4X, bottle of 4, whatever it is, and just gone, today I did well.
We spoke in a previous episode about where you used to stand to your quicks. So if you're standing 20, 30 yards back to Hoggard, and then you're standing up to Hoggard, and obviously the pitch is slightly different, presumably it's slower, but not that much slower. How does that work from the impact on you as an individual, from a skills perspective, the ball hitting the gloves perspective? It's quite a difficult thing for someone who isn't a wicketkeeper, and certainly not a wicketkeeper, to have played international cricket to even comprehend how that happens.
I'd put it into a method of your thinking, your approach. So standing back 20 plus yards, you've got opportunities to get into rhythm. So you're watching the bowling. Wicket keeping is about getting into a rhythm of the situation. With each bowler, you have a certain rhythm to the ball coming through, and that's what you desperately crave for. So standing back, it's a lot easier to get into rhythm. But standing up, Jack Russell gave me, he came and did some work with the England team when I was in it, and he talked to me about my mindset. And I kept that with my whole career. So when I went up to the stumps, my mindset had to be fast, aggressive.
Okay.
Okay, because that's what I was looking to do. I didn't get, interestingly, I watched Carey. Carey gets quite low. And so with bounce, he has a lot to do. So that's why, again, he did so well. I would stand a bit taller because, I'd be thinking about where's my area, my zone I'm going to take most balls above the bails. So I would come up, stand a bit taller, but in my mindset, I was aggressive. I want to be really aggressive to the ball because I need to be quick. So that's the bit of the keeping. The skill, you'd practice that, but it's the change in your mindset. And then if a spinner comes on, I'd calm things down and I'd slow it down a bit. I'd get a bit lower to go with the bounce of the ball. So it's those subtle differences. But up to the stumps, you've got to be this jack in the box. You've got to be prepared to move quick, move fast, react. Standing back, slower, more time, rhythm, watch the ball, move, catch, pass it on.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? The sort of the intricacies and the small detail that you see in the longer format of the game. What are the breaks called? Is that it was dinner? Let's call it dinner, supper, end of play, because I can't remember what they were called. So the first break, which would have been lunch, but it was dinner. England 98 for 2. The supper break was the end of the second session. Exactly double that. I like a sort of a mathematical sort of similarity. 96 for 4. Close of play was 325 for 9. Where are you going? Who's won what session?
I'm going England for session 1. Despite Starc's heroics early on, the fight back and going into, I think I've mentioned in previous, going into lunch, supper, tea, afternoon, whatever, only 2 wickets down is a positive, and have 100 on the board. So for me, that is the batting side victory.
Yeah.
And
Next one,
then
196
lunch,
ball. Yeah.
after lunch, I'm going to give that one to Australia. Okay, because I just think the way they came out after lunch, the way they bowled, they created the wickets of Zac Crawley. Okay, and so they although the figures are exactly the same, I think the nature of it had England going into that second session break under more pressure than they did at lunch.
And then England last session.
And I love the fact that we didn't get blown away. There was a lot of talk. Should we have declared around when Archer first went out? Because it was prime time to go and bowl with a new ball. And so it was that balance, and everyone sort of expected maybe that Ben Stokes being the aggressive captain, and everyone was changed. Everyone was in their whites ready. Smith had his keeping stuff on. But the value in what they've put on, Jofra and Joe Root, mediocre 260 to now position of strength of 320. Go out tomorrow afternoon, 2:00 when the sun's shining, the wickets flat. Okay, who knows? Maybe get another 50. That would be, that would be amazing to get up to 350. And so that's why that final one. Duncan Fletcher used to always say to us, first innings, you get to 400, you're in control of the test match. Let's dial that back a bit, because we know that pink ball under lights is notoriously difficult. If we go 330, 350 as a position of strength, England have done pretty well.
So England's day today. And what do you see for tomorrow?
Exactly that. I want them to start. I want Jofra and Joe Root to start, not go helter-skelter. So
they won't
see what the
declare
bowlers are offering, see what's happening. I hope not, because I want them to. And again, it's those little psyche of make them put all their stuff on, make those bowlers put their spikes on, make their bowlers do their warm-ups. Okay, send them out there. And even if we do get out first ball, they've then got to get the opening batters have got to rush off, because the opening batters will be out there sort of looking at it going, you got Head and Weatherald, two guys who are quite new to it. Yes, Head had the fantastic innings, but still, if they've got to run off and get ready again, and that 10 minutes isn't long, that's not a chance. Rather than if they know from well early to go, okay, you've got the chance to prepare. No, I want them to go out there. I want us to maximise the runs we get, however many it is. It'd be amazing to get to 350. And then you're also taking a bit of time out getting under lights, because that's all the chat. Get through the first session. Stuff happens in session 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And then we control those first, whenever they bat, let's call it, they get in for majority of the first session, control that 45 minutes after lunch. That twilight period is right. Okay, let's go for it then.
And bowlers need to keep their lengths, keep their discipline, have some patience, because it's a decent score to defend.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, there you go.
Doesn't look like it's a wicket that you can blast them off.
No. England adapted to conditions, have come out fighting. Good to see. Josie, looking forward to another good day's cricket. Did you get up at 4 this morning or not?
No, I did get up. I usually come to school and have a one-to-one cricket net with a lad at school, because of the and I usually start that about 6:30. But
Okay.
I got inspectors in. I had to make sure I was prepared for my 2 lessons today.
Very
Ironically,
good.
they didn't come and watch it. So unfortunately,
maybe they're watching
for Johnny,
the
cricket.
Well, in fact, they're watching the cricket,
possibly,
not you.
possibly. But anyway, so 6 o'clock, and I'll probably do the same tomorrow.
4:17 I was today. So there you go. That's dedication for you. Amazing, isn't it? Hey,
but you don't do anything. You can have an afternoon nap. I've still got a job to do.
No, that's fair. No, I've got to edit this and get it up and get you famous, all that sort of thing, remember? And on that note, we shall do this time tomorrow. Cheers, mate.
See ya.